The train screamed as it halted at Silver Bluff station, iron wheels grinding like anger against steel. Steam burst into the September air, curling around the platform like ghosts rising from the earth. Clara Hart pressed her gloved hand to the window, heart pounding. This was her new beginning, even if it felt more like falling off a cliff than stepping into a future. After 43 long days from Boston, she had finally arrived. A mail-order bride. People used the term like it was nothing, but it tasted bitter in her mouth. At 26, with no family left and barely enough money to survive, she had accepted the only respectable offer she had. Edmund Denton, a dry goods merchant, widower, promising companionship and work. His letters had been neat, polite, safe. Clara stepped onto the platform. The air was sharp, smelling of sage and horse sweat. She gathered her courage along with her trunk. Miss Hart. She turned. Edmund Denton stood stiff as a fence post, thin and pale, his hair slicked flat. He looked older than his letters, older and colder. "Mr. Denton," she said, offering her hand. He barely touched her fingertips before letting go. His mouth pinched like he'd bitten a lemon. "There's been a change in circumstances," he said. The platform seemed to tilt. "I don't understand. My situation is altered. I have decided against remarriage." He pulled a leather pouch from his coat. Coins clinked. "This will cover your trouble. The return train leaves tomorrow." Around them, whispers rose like wind through wheat. "Mail-order bride sent back." Poor thing. Clara straightened her spine. She had scrubbed floors, fought through typhoid, buried her parents. She would not break for him. "Keep your money, Mr. Denton," she said quietly. "Compensation is not the same as honor." Another voice answered, deep and steady, behind her. "It surely isn't." Clara turned and saw him. Wade Carver. Even in Boston, she had heard the stories. The wealthy rancher who owned half the valley. A man built like the land itself. Broad shoulders, sun-worn skin, eyes cold as winter sky. His hat shadowed his face, but something in his presence made the crowd fall silent. Edmund stiffened. "This is none of your concern, Carver." "Leaving a woman stranded reflects on all of us," Wade replied calmly. Before Clara could speak, shouting broke out near the freight depot. A wagon lurched sideways, while catching the platform edge. Barrels tumbled like rolling thunder, one heading straight toward her. Clara froze. The barrel filled her vision. Iron bands, splinters, death rushing toward her. Strong hands grabbed her waist. In one swift motion, she was lifted, spun, pulled against a chest as solid as stone. The barrel smashed into the bench behind her, splitting it like kindling. Clara clung to the man who had saved her, breath shaking. He smelled of leather, pine, and wind. "You hurt?" Wade asked, his arm still around her. "No," she whispered. "I think I'm all right." He set her down gently, but not too fast, like he wanted to be sure she could stand. When she looked up, his eyes were studying her, not like a man judging a woman, but like a man reading a sign on a trail he needed to understand. "Thank you," she breathed. Wade nodded once, tipping his hat. Edmund Denton was gone, vanished in the crowd like a coward avoiding blame. People stared now for a different reason. The rejected bride saved by the richest man in the valley. "Miss Hart," Wade said, his voice calm and sure. "Do you have plans?" "Yes," she lied. She had no money, no room, no future past sunset. "The Riverside Hotel takes lodgers," Wade said. Then he paused, calculating something silently. "I'm in need of a housekeeper. Temporary. 3 months through winter. Room, board, fair wages. At the end, you choose. Stay on, or I'll buy your train fare anywhere you want. First class." The offer hung between them like a bridge over a canyon. Clara swallowed. Behind her was shame and loneliness. Ahead was a stranger with serious eyes and hands strong enough to pull her from death. "Your wife wouldn't mind?" she asked. "No wife," he said simply. "Just me, my foreman, and 15 ranch hands. Big house needs running." Clara thought of her mother's old advice. When no door opens, build your own. She lifted her chin. "I accept your offer, Mr. Carver." 3 months, as agreed. For the first time, Wade Carver's expression shifted. Something like respect. Wade, he corrected. Just Wade. He lifted her trunk as if it weighed nothing and led her toward a sturdy ranch wagon. The crowd whispered behind them, but Clara didn't look back. She climbed beside him, his large hand steadying her. The horses started forward, rolling her away from the life she'd known and into something she couldn't yet name. "Why did you step in?" she asked softly when the town disappeared behind them. Wade didn't look at her. A man who breaks his word in small things can't be trusted in large ones. He paused. "Besides, it takes courage to ride 43 days on a promise. Takes more when that promise falls apart." Clara held his words close as the wagon carried her north. The road stretched into mountains sharp against endless sky. A stranger had saved her life. Now he might save her future. The Triple C Ranch came into view just as the sun dipped low, turning the grasslands golden. Clara sat straight in the wagon seat, hands folded tight in her lap. Wade Carver drove beside her without speaking much, but his presence felt steady, like leaning against a barn beam that would never fall. The ranch spread wide across the land. Corrals full of horses, barns built from thick timber, bunk houses, sheds. At the center of it all, a large 2-story house that looked solid enough to survive 100 winters. Smoke curled from the chimney. Men paused their work to stare as Wade pulled up with a strange woman beside him. Clara's heartbeat thumped in her throat. Wade stepped down first, then lifted her trunk from the wagon as if it weighed nothing. "Boys," he called out, voice deep, carrying across the yard. "This is Miss Clara Hart. She'll be keeping the house through winter. You'll treat her with respect. Any man who forgets answers to me." A rumble of "yes, sir" rolled across the group. The men tipped their hats politely, curiosity shining in their eyes, but not a shred of disrespect showed. Wade ran a tight, disciplined ranch. "Silas," he said, waving over a weathered man with sharp eyes. "Show Miss Hart inside. Help her settle." "Ma'am," Silas said, touching his hat. "Welcome. Wade doesn't take in just anyone, so you must have grit." Clara followed him to the front door into a house that smelled of dust, old wood, and men living alone far too long. The entryway was tidy but cold, as if no one had laughed or lived here properly in ages. Silas led her upstairs to a corner room, with a small window looking out toward the barn. A simple bed, a dresser, a washstand. Sparse but clean. This was Wade's sister's room before she married, Silas said. Best in the house. He figured you'd need quiet. Clara touched the bedpost, feeling the solid wood under her hand. "It's perfect," she said softly. "I'll bring up hot water," Silas said. "Supper's at 6. You join us in the kitchen, if you like." Wade eats late, usually in his office. When he left, Clara unpacked slowly, placing each item like she was planting roots. Her 3 dresses, her few books, her mother's silver brush. And finally, Edmund's letters, the ones that had brought her west. She tied them with string, carried them downstairs, and fed them one by one into the stove fire. The flame swallowed each promise until nothing but ash remained. By the time supper came, Clara had washed, pinned up her hair, and found her courage again. She walked into the kitchen where the ranch hands ate. They looked up respectfully, hats off, backs straight. The room smelled of beans, cornbread, and hard-earned hunger. "Evening, ma'am." Buck, the youngest ranch hand, said with a grin too big for his thin face. "Wade says he'll be cooking for us. Please say yes. Jake burned the biscuits this morning so bad they tasted like wagon wheels." Clara laughed despite herself. "I'll do my best." The men relaxed, warming to her quickly. They asked polite questions. Where she came from, if she'd ever lived on a ranch, whether Boston really had streets made of brick. Most had never traveled farther than the county line. After supper, Clara washed dishes in the pump sink until her hands stung. She was about to go upstairs when she heard footsteps behind her. "You don't need to do all that tonight," Wade said quietly. She turned. He stood in the doorway, sleeves rolled up, hair messy from the wind, lantern light catching the hard lines of his face. "It needed doing," Clara said. This house, it feels lonely. Wade's jaw tightened slightly. It's been just men here for years. My mother kept it well, but after she passed. He didn't finish the sentence. Clara dried her hands. Thank you for bringing me here. You earned your place today, he said, standing your ground on that platform. Not everyone could do that. Her cheeks warmed. I wasn't brave. I was desperate. Sometimes those look the same, he said simply. She followed him down the hall toward his office. Papers piled high on the desk, ledgers open. Wade lived here, not in the house, but in his work. I eat at 12:30 every day, he said. Bring lunch to the office when you're settled. Mornings, the men cook their own breakfast, but if you want to take that on, it's your choice. I'll handle breakfast, she said without hesitation. They work hard. They should start the day with more than burnt biscuits. That earned a real smile from him. Small but genuine. It transformed his entire face. Then they're in luck, he murmured. Before dawn the next morning, Clara was already in the kitchen. She started the fire, pumped water, scrubbed pans, and mixed batter for biscuits. By the time the men came in, rubbing sleep from their eyes, the room smelled of fresh bread and frying salt pork. Buck froze in the doorway. Ma'am, are those real biscuits? Try one, she said. He grabbed one so fast he nearly burned himself. Best thing I ever tasted. Wade appeared a little later, boots dusty, having already checked the herd before most men woke. He picked up a biscuit, examined it, then ate it in one bite. The smile that followed was slow and warm. You're going to ruin us, he said. Ruin you? Men work harder when they're fed well. I'll have a whole county begging to hire you away. I'm not planning on leaving yet, she said, trying to sound casual. Wade looked at her. Not quick, not careless, but like he was truly seeing her. Good, he said quietly. The place already feels different with you here. Clara spent the morning walking the house, learning its bones. The windows that stuck, the crooked floorboard on the back steps, the pantry shelves sagging under old jars. She made a list, a long one. At lunch, she knocked on Wade's office door. Come in, he said. She stepped inside, tray in hand. Beef stew, fresh bread, apple butter. Wade leaned back in his chair. You didn't have to make it fancy. It's not fancy, Clara replied. It's lunch. You're changing this house, he said. I'm just cleaning. No, Wade said, eyes steady on hers. You're putting life back into it. Clara felt something warm rise in her chest, something she hadn't felt in years. Hope, real, sturdy hope. But it wasn't until later, when she heard a scream outside, that she realized hope can shatter as quickly as it forms. And she would soon be tested in ways she never imagined. The scream echoed across the yard, sharp and terrified. Clara dropped the bread dough she'd been kneading and ran outside, heart pounding. Behind the barn, a crowd of ranch hands had gathered in a frantic circle. A horse stamped and snorted nearby, reins tangled, saddle twisted. Buck lay on the ground, his face pale, body twisted wrong, blood running from a gash above his eye. Clara knelt beside him without hesitation. Don't move him, she ordered, voice steadier than she felt. Buck, can you hear me? He groaned. Hurts. I know. Stay with me. Doc's out delivering a baby, Tom said, panicked. Won't be back until tomorrow. Clara felt for broken ribs, checked his breathing, then examined his arm. It was snapped clean between the elbow and wrist. The sight made the men flinch. She set her jaw. Bring me hot water, clean rags, 2 straight boards, and whiskey. Now. The men scrambled. Someone whispered. She's going to set the bone herself. She has to. Wade's voice said behind her. He had just arrived, breathless from riding in. There's no doctor coming. Clara looked up briefly. Wade's eyes were locked on hers, steady, trusting her completely. That single look was enough to steady her shaking hands. She cleaned the head wound quickly, working as she had seen her mother do years ago. Buck whimpered but did not pull away. Buck, she said softly, I need to set your arm. It will hurt badly, but it'll be over fast. Can you be brave for me?" He nodded, teeth clenched. "Silas," she said. "Hold his shoulder. Tom, when I say pull, you pull his hand straight and steady." Wade knelt behind her, hands bracing Buck so he wouldn't thrash. Clara placed her fingers on the broken bone. 1, 2, 3. Tom pulled. Clara guided the bone back into place with one swift, sure motion. Buck screamed, then sagged. "It's over," Clara whispered, binding the arm tightly. "You did good. You'll heal fine." Wade watched her tie the final knot, his jaw tight, eyes fierce. Not with anger, but with admiration. "You saved him," he said quietly. "I did what needed doing." But Wade shook his head. "No, you did more." They carried Buck into the house to rest. Clara stayed with him for hours, cooling his fever, checking his breathing. At midnight, Wade brought her coffee, sitting silently beside her as she worked. "You've got a healer's hands," he finally said. Clara shook her head. "Just memory and necessity." "That's exactly what my mother used to say." Wade replied. Something gentle passed between them, a warmth growing slowly, like sunrise over cold land. He didn't touch her. He didn't have to. His presence said enough. Days passed. Clara proved herself again and again. Cooking, cleaning, tending the men, organizing the house, rebuilding order from years of neglect. Wade watched her quietly, like a man seeing life return to a place he thought was dead. But peace never lasts long on the frontier. One night, Clara smelled something sharp and wrong. Coal oil drifting through the kitchen window. Then she saw shadows near the barn. Men, many of them. "Martha," Clara whispered to the cook, "fetch the shotgun." They moved fast and silent. A man with a torch crept toward the barn. Clara steadied the shotgun on the windowsill and fired. The torch flew from his hand as he fell. More shadows bolted. Another shot cracked from outside. Someone firing back. Glass shattered. Martha dragged Clara behind a table. "Crowley's men," Martha hissed. "The ones who've been threatening to buy Wade's land. They came to burn us out." "Ring the bell," Clara shouted. Martha sprinted into the yard as bullets hissed past. She yanked the bell rope hard. The metal clanged, echoing across the ranch. Danger, danger. A gunman charged. Clara fired again, dropping him before he could reach the house. Then hoofbeats thundered. Wade and the ranch hands rode in like a storm breaking open. Gunfire erupted everywhere. Clara ducked behind a barrel, heart racing. Wade's voice cut through the chaos. "Drive him off. Save the barn." The Triple C men chased Crowley's gang into the darkness. When the shooting finally stopped, silence fell heavy and shaking. Clara stood in the middle of it all, breathing hard, shotgun still warm in her hands. Wade leapt off his horse and ran to her. "You all right?" he demanded, gripping her shoulders gently but firmly. "I'm fine," she said, voice trembling from adrenaline. "We stopped them." His jaw tightened as he looked at her cheek, cut from shattered glass and the dirt and blood on her dress. "You fought," he said, fierce pride in his voice. "You stood your ground." "So did everyone else," she whispered. He cupped her face briefly, thumb brushing her cheek. "Clara—" But before he could say more, the sheriff came barreling in with reinforcements. Night stretched on with questions, bodies counted, wounds tended. By dawn, the worst had passed. But nothing was the same. The trial against Crowley's men brought the whole town together. Clara testified calmly, firmly, with quiet strength that made the jury lean forward to listen. Martha spoke too. So did Silas, Tom, and the wounded men laid up in the sheriff's office. When Clara took the stand, Crowley's lawyer tried to shame her. "You're nothing but a rejected mail-order bride." Clara met his gaze without blinking. "No, I'm a woman who stood when others ran. I defended this ranch with my own hands. I helped save lives. And I will not be quiet because you fear the truth." The courtroom erupted in whispers. Wade's eyes never left her. When the verdict came, guilty on all counts, it wasn't just justice. It was freedom. Weeks later, Wade took Clara on a wagon ride at sunrise. They followed the creek to the frame of a new house, half-built among cottonwoods. He stopped the horses and helped her down. The morning was gold, bright, full of promise. "This," Wade said, voice quiet but sure, "is for the future." He took her hand. "Callous, warm, steady. Clara Hart, stay. Not as my housekeeper. Not for 3 months. Stay as my partner. My wife. My equal." Her breath caught. Tears stung. "Yes," she whispered. "Wade Carver." "Yes." He slipped a simple ring on her finger. Garnet stones glowed like embers. Then he kissed her. Slow, deep, certain, the kind of kiss that meant forever. Behind them, the ranch stretched wide. Ahead of them, a home waited to be built. And between them, something strong and unshakable had taken root. Not luck, not accident. Choice. 2 people who had stood through fire, now choosing to stand together.